Exposed. 5 spine-chilling testimonies from the haunted night shift of Samu'S cursed operations. In the depths of night, Sarah braced herself as the stark truth of her existence loomed like the flickering lights of her monitor. The Emergency Operations Center, SAMU, once hailed as a beacon of safety, now echoed with tales of dread, the kind that gnaw at your sanity when the world outside has gone to sleep. One could hardly call it a job anymore. It felt more like a twilight haunt. Cursed, they whispered. It's cursed. And it didn't take long for Sarah to feel the oppressive weight of that word. The hum of the old computers buzzed like a swarm of angry wasps, filling the cramped office with a nauseating familiarity. Hour after hour, she gripped her coffee cup as if it were a lifeline. Then the calls began. Something's in the shadows. A voice shrieked, barely muffled and static. The terrified tones rang through her headphones, each one drawing her deeper into a web of nightmarish accounts. One by one, her colleagues swapped stories about the missing locals, whispering ghosts, shadows darting too close to the skin of reality. Chilled, Sarah brushed off the hairs prickling on the back of her neck. Yet, the tension twisted tighter as calls morphed from mundane household disputes to urgent cries riddled with panic. Tonight, through the crackle of a line, an elderly woman gasped. It watches. It knows before Sarah could respond. The call dropped. With each new ring, dread coiled around her heart as she believed her imagination was running wild, like a child scared of the dark. But then came a night where the clock struck 2 a.m., the moment when all normalcy took a sharp turn. The whir of her computer distorted. The hums morphed into a dreadful symphony of muffled whispers, recounting tales of those who vanished without a trace. The words slithered through the air, making her skin crawl. One name echoed in her mind, a name she was all too familiar with. Her heart raced, connecting dots back to the wrong shadows she knew all too well, the old hospital at the edge of town. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah pressed on, urgency clawing at her throat. Only as she began to piece together the truth did she realize her supervisor held questionable ties to the very reports she was investigating. Panic gnawed at her insides, each heartbeat thrumming loud in her ears. She had to find answers. She had to save her children. Just when she thought she could get a grip, the server crashed. The screens flickered into blackness. In the unnerving silence that followed, a call blipped in from her home. "Mom, something's in the house." The sudden familiarity in the voice sent icy tendrils of dread crawling across her skin. Then silence. No sound. Nothing but the faded echoes of what her time at SAMU had devolved into. A potent realization struck her. She had ventured too far into a darkness that didn't just lurk in the shadows, but had seeped into her family's very existence. What if the darkness had already claimed them? Her breath stalled as fear coursed through her veins. Would she reach her children in time? Or was it too late? In that chilling moment, uncertainty hung heavily. The real terror was just beginning. The static buzz of her headphones felt like a physical weight, clinging to Sarah as she scrambled to restore power. It was just a blackout, she told herself, forcing the thought into her mind like a prayer. Just a blackout. She fumbled to reset the system, her heart hammering like a trapped bird. The bare monitors cast ghostly shapes that flickered against the walls, dancing with her rising panic. Come on, come on. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, praying for the screens to spring back to life, to banish the encroaching darkness. But the black abyss remained, an all-consuming void. She realized, with every tick of the clock, that the echoing silence was more terrifying than the haunting voices she had recorded. "Mom!" The voice sliced through the darkness like a knife. It was her daughter, Lily. The sheer desperation tugged at Sarah's heart like a thread unraveling. "Lily, I'm coming." She surged out of her chair, her pulse racing, each step toward the exit echoing with dread. The glass door slid open, and the fluorescent lights flickered above, casting menacing shadows. Just outside, the hallway seemed endless, stretching out like a dark maw ready to swallow her whole. Her instincts screamed caution, but love drove her forward as she bolted toward the parking lot. The air grew thick, and an unsettling chill brushed against her skin. She scanned the shadows between the cars, half expecting something to lunge at her. She slipped inside her car, twisting the key in desperation. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life with a jarring howl that felt wrong, terribly wrong. She raced through the deserted streets. Crickets sang ominously in the eerie stillness of the night. Each streetlight flickered and dimmed, as if resisting her presence. Her mind turned in circles, questioning herself. What did she mean? What's in the house? The darkness seemed to think it was funny, an unseen force watching her, waiting for her to slip. Just a few more blocks. As she turned onto their street, the world outside turned colorless, a slow-motion sequence of dread. Her neighbors' houses stood as ominous statues, shadows pooling in doorways. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, the metal biting into her palms as a sense of foreboding took hold. This wasn't merely fear. It was a palpable entity, alive and relentless. Sarah sounded the horn as she raced down the driveway, calling out for her children. Lily, Ethan. The words spilled from her lips, frantic and raw. The front door stood ajar, flapping in the gentle night breeze. Something twisted in her gut. This wasn't right. She hesitated, heart pounding against her ribcage, then followed the creeping dread into her home. Inside, the silence enveloped her, thick as fog. She stepped cautiously, every creak of the floorboards amplifying the sound of her heavy breathing. The living room was dark, save for a sliver of moonlight slicing through the window. She swore she heard a soft sound, a whisper, slithering through the darkness. Mommy, the voice was faint yet tantalizingly close. It sent a chill spiraling down her spine. She darted toward the echo, guiding her steps with heart-pounding anticipation. Lily, is it you? Fear coiled around her throat, choking out her breath. She reached the kitchen, the air thick with a peculiar scent. Something sweet, sickly, and familiar. A chill burned against her skin as she rounded the corner, and then froze. The room lay in disarray, chairs overturned and the table littered with her children's forgotten toys. But there, in the corner, stood a figure, a small silhouette with its back turned. Lily, she whispered, terror clinging to the edges of her voice. The figure turned slowly, revealing an impossible grin that stretched far too wide, a dark void where eyes should be, glinting with malevolent joy. What had she brought home with her from Samu? In that moment, the realization dawned: she was not just fighting to save her children. She was fighting for her very soul. Panic gripped her, heart racing as the figure stepped closer, shadows pooling around it like a cloak of doom. The weight of dread settled deeper. She was not prepared for the truth yet to be revealed. What was waiting for her in the suffocating darkness? The figure hesitated, then stepped into the sliver of moonlight. In that unholy glow, Sarah saw the face of her daughter, but it was twisted, distorted, as if whatever had taken hold of Lily was pretending to be her. The eyes were dark pools, reflecting a hollow bitterness, contrasting starkly against her pale skin. The voice came again, resonating with an unnatural echo. Mommy. I've been waiting, Sarah gasped. A scream caught at the back of her throat. She stumbled back, colliding with the kitchen island, her breath escaping in ragged gasps. Everything she had faced in the lab seemed trivial compared to this monstrous visage of her child. The sweet scent thickened, almost choking her, a sickening mix of decay and sweetness. Get away from her. The words burst forth, fueled by desperation. But the thing that wore Lily's face only tilted its head, that grotesque grin never faltering. It was toying with her, savoring her growing dread. The shadows around it pulsated, breathing like a living entity hungry to engulf her. Mommy, let me show you, the figure whispered, extending a slender hand. Instinct kicked in. Panic surged through her, igniting a primal urge to flee. She dashed past the horror, sprinting toward the living room. But the air felt thick and oppressive, nearly paralyzing her. It was as if the darkness itself conspired against her escape. Her heart thundered in her ears, drowning out the whispers that spiraled from the figure behind her, inviting her deeper into the web of terror. "Mommy, don't you want to see?" She dove for the front door, praying it would yield easily, but it resisted. Stupidly, she had locked it earlier. The voice of reason faded in the face of terror, and she frantically fumbled with the lock, not daring to look back. It was then she heard another voice, one that she hadn't expected. "Mom, open the door." Ethan's voice was frantic, a lifeline in the tumult. She managed to push the lock free, and the door flew open with a creak, revealing her son's scared, pale face framed by the darkness outside. She grabbed him, pulling him inside and shutting the door tightly, locking it again. "Mom, what is happening?" he gasped, eyes wide. "Stay close to me." But, as she gathered the fragment of her family, the room felt even colder. She turned slowly and saw the shadow with Lily's face linger in the kitchen doorway, watching them with gleeful anticipation. The thing began to chant, the words blending into a distorted lullaby that filled the space. Sarah's heart raced. Her mind battled between reason and terror. "Mommy, don't you want to be together again? Forever?" No, she wouldn't let it win. She backed away, her gaze flicking to the basement door. It was a dark abyss, something from her nightmares. But the creature was advancing, taunting her with visions of her family only to strip them away. With every inch the figure came closer, the air grew heavier. She felt Ethan cling to her leg, his breaths quickening in sync with her own. "Mom, what do we do?" he whispered, terror pooling in his wide eyes. "We need to go," she breathed, taking a protective step back, glancing around for anything that could help. But could they escape this darkness? Did it control the house now like a puppet? As she turned, heart pounding wildly, she hesitated a moment too long. The grin from the thing widened, its voice a chilling echo in her mind. "Mommy, you can't leave me. I'm your little girl." Sarah's heart dropped, sweat trickling down her back as the walls felt like they were closing in, the room swirling with shadows. She refused to acknowledge it, to give in. Desperate anguish coursed through her. She could not let this entity have her children. She had to fight. Her mind raced as she felt the entity's presence warp the air around them, the realization clawing at her. What if the truth of its power lay not in the shadows but in the light? "Ethan," she cried, an idea formulating in her mind. "We need light." But as she turned to grab the flashlight from the drawer, a scream erupted from Ethan. "Mom, look out." The moment was heavy with dread as Sarah spun, her heart sinks. The figure lunged, the void engulfing her world in darkness. In that moment, everything vanished. What new horror awaited them in the total blackness? Sarah felt it, a wave of impenetrable darkness swirling around her, gripping her lungs as if it wanted to suck the air from her very being. She couldn't see, couldn't think. The only sensation left was the bone-piercing chill crawling up her spine. Instinctively, she reached for Ethan, but he wasn't there. Panic clawed at her throat, urging her to scream, but the darkness smothered her voice. "Ethan," she cried, desperation spilling into her words. A glimmer of light flickered in the distance, a dim, wavering illumination that broke through the suffocating gloom. It was coming from the kitchen. Sarah stumbled forward, her heart racing as fear and determination collided. One thought burned brighter than all others. She had to find Ethan. The echo of her own footsteps draped her mind in dread. She fought against the shadowy tendrils that twisted in the air, encircling her ankles like a trap. Each step further into the darkness felt like an offering, begging for her to succumb to despair. Straining her ears, she listened intently, searching for any sign of her son. "Mom!" Ethan's voice pierced through the void, faint yet clear, a lifeline she clung to. "Ethan, where are you?" "Mom!" The urgency heightened, breaking the barrier of her fear. "I'm in the living room. Please come." She dashed toward the voice, the flickering light guiding her as if it were a beacon. But as she moved, Shadows twisted around her feet, pulling her back, whispering vile promises that tore at her sanity. "Join us, it's better here forever no," Sarah screamed, shaking her head. She dug her heels in, fighting against the encroaching darkness that whispered lies, desperately yearning to keep her from Ethan. Shaking her head, she stumbled toward the living room, fighting through the net of fear woven around her. Finally, she emerged from the darkness into the dim light. Her heart swelled with a rush of hope, but it faltered hard. Ethan stood frozen, staring into the corner of the room where the shadows twisted and curled. His eyes were wide, reflecting nothing but terror. She followed his gaze. The figure still loomed, now a living nightmare, its head cocked to the side, an unsettling mimicry of Lily. The wicked smile stretched even further, revealing a mouth too wide for its face, the shadows curling around it like a shroud. "See, Mommy?" it crooned, its voice dripping with malice. "Yes, right here with me, doesn't he look so happy?" At that moment, Sarah's heart shattered. The corners of the living room warped, reality bending under the weight of fear. She felt entirely crushed, suffocated by visions of what could happen if she made the wrong choice. "Mom, stay with me," Ethan cried, backing away, terror bubbling in his voice. "Don't look at it," Sarah shouted, stepping protectively in front of him. She took a breath, oil cold in her lungs, and steeled herself. "Ethan, we need to leave the house. Now." The thing sneered, its dark body pulsing, a pulsating mass eager to swallow them whole. "You'll never leave, you belong with me." Heart racing, Sarah's mind spun. There had to be a way to outsmart this creature, a twist in its game that could expose its weakness. She thought of the light, the flickering hope that guided her before. "Ethan, follow me. We're going to the basement." "Mom, no." But fear rippled in his voice, yet she yanked him along. They raced to the basement door, shadows thrumming with angry whispers. "Mommy, this will only hurt." For a moment, ignoring the taunts, she flung open the door, revealing darkness thick enough to suffocate. Yet she sensed a different kind of weight in the air. What if this was the trap? "Trust me," she urged, gripping Ethan's hand tightly. "We need to confront it on our terms." They entered the basement, the heavy door slamming shut behind them, swallowing them in silence. The walls pressed in, as if the house itself were alive and breathing around them. Shadows danced ominously in corners, vibrating with anticipation. "Do you see it, Ethan?" She spoke softly, her breath trembling. This will show us the truth." Before they could react, the basement lights flickered on flickering, revealing more than they expected. The walls were painted in images, twisted versions of the family they once were, echoes of laughter alongside frames of terror frozen in time. "Mom, what is this?" Ethan whispered, fear crinkling his forehead. The lights hummed louder as a form began to coalesce. "Mommy, you will join us soon," the thing called out from the shadows, its voice filled with malice. "Mom!" Ethan screamed again, and Sarah felt the sweat pool on her palms, her heart threatening to burst. What horrific reality awaited in the twisted light of the basement? Would truth extinguish the shadows or amplify the horror? The air in the basement was thick with tension, a palpable dread curling around Sarah and Ethan as the images lining the walls seemed to watch them. The flickering lights threw grotesque shadows, making it hard to tell where the terror ended and their minds began. Sarah's heart raced, a frantic drum echoing in her chest as the creature slithered closer. It twisted and turned, the semblance of Lily growing clearer amidst the horror, but it felt wrong, so wrong. The voice pirouetted through the air, melodic yet grating. It fed on their fear, each note a dagger in their sanity. "Ethan, listen to me," Sarah managed, her voice barely a whisper. "We're not going to let it take us. We need to see what it wants." "Mom, no. Don't engage." Ethan pulled her arm, but she couldn't shake the nagging feeling, the need to know what reality had morphed into. "I have to try." She turned to the creature, forcing herself to remain steady. "What do you want from us?" The shadows coiled tighter around the figure, darkening the space further. "You misunderstand. It's not what I want, it's what you desire." Its smile widened grotesquely, stretching almost to the edges of its head. You long for reunion, don't you? To hold him again. Ethan recoiled, pressing himself into Sarah. Mom, it's lying. I know, she breathed, feeling her resolve slip as an unbearable weight pressed upon her chest. The images on the walls started shifting. Her family's faces no longer held the joy of memories but the agony of loss. Voices, high-pitched and tormented, danced around them, whispering her sins. It doesn't matter, she shouted, trying to drown out the cacophony. You're not Lily. You're just a shadow. Ah, but shadows carry the weight of what was. The thing laughed, a sound so unnatural it sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. You see, I can give you what you miss. All I need is your acceptance. Just open your heart. Mom. Ethan was shaking, his body stiff with fear. We have to go. It's a trap. But that glimmer of hope, that shift in the creature's tone, hung in the air like an enchanting perfume. Just a moment of clarity slipped through the cracks of despair, making it hard to resist. Maybe it was the promise of reunion, of warmth, of love long lost that gripped Sarah's soul. We can't give in, she stated, injecting steel into her spine. We refuse to join your nightmare. You don't own us. The figure's smile faltered for just a second, frustration flickering across its face. Shadows distorted, shifting violently as if to break free. Then welcome to your hell. Suddenly, the basement lights dimmed to a murmur, and the images on the walls bled together, chaos unfurling before them. The whispers grew louder, angry and mocking. You'll join us, you'll see, Ethan screamed, clutching his head. Mom, make it stop. A rush of panic washed over Sarah. She clutched Ethan tighter, eyes widening in horror as the shadows coalesced into tendrils reaching for them, desperate to connect. Fight it. We have to fight, she shouted, her voice cracking under the pressure. But then, an elemental terror blossomed. A whisper almost drowned out in the chaos. The ring. We need the ring. It was the only way to sever the bond. What ring? Sarah yelled, shaking the haze from her mind. What do you mean? But before she could grasp the creature's next move, shadows burst forth, enveloping Ethan in dark tendrils, dragging him toward the abyss created by the wall of horror. Ethan. She lunged, adrenaline pumping her legs, but the shadows were strong. They pulled him back, his frightened scream echoing in the darkness. Desperation coursed through her. She couldn't let him go. No, not my son. Mommy, help. His voice was a fading echo as the darkness thickened. Her heart clenched. What had she overlooked? What did she need to understand? Time blurred, pressure folding around them like a noose. There had to be a way to save him. A tiny glimmer sparked in her mind. The ring. Where had she seen it? Mom! Ethan screamed again, and in that moment, she felt the cold clutches of defeat closing in. Would she be able to find the ring? In the dwindling seconds left before darkness claimed them entirely, would it unlock the truths needed to fight back? Or was it the final trigger that would plunge them into eternal shadow? The darkness swelled like a great, black tide, tugging at Sarah and Ethan. Time twisted, stretching out like the shadows grasping at their limbs. The air felt alive, crackling with a palpable energy that suffocated her. Fear clawed at her insides as Ethan's terrified eyes met hers, reflecting her own horror back at her. Ethan! She screamed again, her voice hoarse and raw. The shadows seemed to pulse, responding to their desperation. I want to let it take you. But the creature laughed, a sound that resonated deep into her bones. You cannot fight what you don't understand. Your bond, it makes you weak. Sarah felt the tendrils attempt to curl around her as if testing the strength of her resolve. Yes, my son, she shouted back, fighting against the creeping despair. You can't tear us apart. Ah, but it is the very love you cherish that binds you. The creature coiled tighter around Ethan, who was now thrashing, panic surging with each passing second. Fear is your prison, dear Sarah. Surrender it. With every word, the room darkened further. It was the monster's power, seeping into her mind and blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Suddenly, Clarity struck her, a flicker of a memory, a moment she'd buried long ago. The ring, it was hidden, tucked away, in the old jewelry box, just like she had put away her memories after the accident that shattered their family. "Ethan, listen," she shouted over the chaos, her heart racing. "I know what we need. The ring, I know where it is. Mom, please." His voice was thin, stretched out under the weight of the shadows, but she grasped onto it with desolation. "Help me." Shaking off the dread, Sarah bolted towards the stairs, the darkness swirling violently around her. Each step felt like wading through treacle, dragging her back with every ounce of will she possessed. She couldn't let the creature claim them. Her mind flashed with visions of the ring glinting in the soft light, memories of laughter outside. Her son's delight lost in a world of oblivion. But hesitation crept in. What if the ring was what the creature wanted? What if it could twist her desire into something grotesque? The thought paralyzed her, a vice squeezing tight as she faced the steps up into that claustrophobic shelter from the horror below. "Mom, hurry!" Ethan's cry broke through the haze. She couldn't stall. Gripping the banister, she continued her ascent, gasping for breath. Each step felt like a mile as the whispers of shadows hissed their rejection, crawling back down into the depths, clinging to her in swirling swirls of malice. At the top of the stairs, she paused, shadows coiling around her, whispering promises of destruction. She could feel Ethan reaching for her through the veil, and it fueled her drive. With one last burst of will, she hurried down the dim hallway towards the bedroom where the jewelry box lay. Heart racing, she could practically feel the darkness pursuing her, its cold breath chilling her spine. The door creaked open, and she dashed inside, heart pounding against her ribcage. She rifled through the box, the scattered trinkets glittering under the faint light. Her fingers trembled as they brushed over the items, each a shard of memory. Finally, there it was, the ring, glimmering like a fallen star lost among common pebbles. But just as she grasped it, the very air in the room shifted. The shadows engulfed her, chilling her to the bone, and from the darkness emerged the creature, more menacing than before. "You're too late, Sarah. You've sealed your fate." "No," she screamed, clutching the ring tightly. Ethan's voice echoed weakly from below, fighting against the tides of despair. Sarah's heart thundered, pulsing with desperation. Could this ring truly sever the bonds? Did it hold the secret to their freedom, or was it just another trap? In that moment of torment, she realized the haunting truth. She had to confront the monster, face her deepest fears. The ring flickered with a light that felt both inviting and ominous. Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "For you, Ethan, I'll do it." As the shadows coiled tighter, she raised the ring, and a spine-chilling silence fell. What would happen next? Would she save her son, or were they bound to lose everything forever? The darkness surged, and the answer loomed just out of reach. The shadows thickened, whispering secrets that coiled around Sarah like a serpent preparing to strike. She felt their cold breath against her skin, the weight of them pressing down on her chest. Time seemed suspended, a taut wire ready to snap. Fear pulsed through her veins as she raised the ring, feeling its cool metal bite into her flesh. "Ethan," she screamed, channeling all her strength into her voice. "I'm coming. Hold on." The tendrils around her grew frantic, twisting and whipping, testing her resolve. The darkness lunged at her, wrapping around her ankle, trying to pull her down into the depths of despair. Shadows flickered and morphed, losing all form, becoming a swirling mass of faces twisted, anguished, and lost. "Give it to me," the creature hissed, its voice reverberating through the air like an echo of a distant nightmare. It loomed closer, its grotesque features illuminated for just a moment. A hideous smile spread across its shadowy form. "The ring belongs to me. Your love is hollow, and your hope is a whim. You think you can use it against me? No," she bellowed, voice cracking, gripping the ring tighter. She felt its warmth radiating against her palm, a lifeline pulling her toward light. The sensation spread through her, fighting the icy grip of darkness. Then she remembered the stories she'd heard, Whispers passed down about the ring, the way it held memories, connections, and the potential to repel the dark. The tales told about love strong enough to defy death. It was worth the risk. She wouldn't lose Ethan. Not to this creature. Not today. With a deep breath, Sarah summoned every ounce of her resolve. The memories flooding back, laughter, joy, the light in her son's eyes. I call on you, ring. I return the love it holds. She cried out. The shadows hissed, an angry wind spiraling around her. As she spoke those words, the ring blazed to life, emitting a light that tore through the darkness, illuminating the room like dawn breaking after an endless storm. No, no, the creature howled, its cries shrill and venomous, as the light enveloped it. Wisps of shadow wrestled against the brilliance, curling and shriveling away. Ethan's cries grew clearer as the shadows retreated. Mom! With a forceful resolve, Sarah stepped toward the light, pulling the ring closer to her heart. I will not let you take him. The creature surged, lunging forward, desperate to snuff out the light. Time seemed to collapse in on itself again, swirling around Sarah in a deafening silence, each heartbeat drumming in her ears. The light and darkness clashed like titans in a war of existence. She could almost see the threads of Ethan's essence shining brighter as the two forces collided. Mom! His voice rang out, clear but trembling. A crack appeared in the heart of the creature, a jagged fissure that split its form into two. The light intensified, shimmering like shattered glass as hope surged between them. In that moment, everything hung in the balance, love battling despair, light against chaos. Sarah felt herself being pulled, not just by the shadows, but by something else, something deeper. Ethan! She cried again, the name a prayer. Come to me! The creature hissed fiercely, thrashing within the ring's brilliant glow. The air vibrated with the tension of their struggle. Sarah felt herself being slowly drawn toward Ethan's cries, each one a beacon of safety. But just as her foot crossed that threshold, a last desperate grasp sent a tendril shooting towards her, snaking around her wrist with crushing force. The pain seared, and with it came a surge of terror. Mom! Don't let it! Ethan's voice was abruptly silenced, swallowed by the shadows. In that instant, Sarah knew her fight wasn't just for her son, it was a battle for her own soul. The creature's face morphed, twisting into her own fears, embodying her doubts, her helplessness as a mother. The light flickered in response to her moment of weakness, dimming again. What would she do? Should she give in to the terror, or drive through it? As she settled her resolve, a thought echoed within her mind. In fear lies the darkness. Then, with every ounce of love she had left, Sarah shouted with ferocity. I'm not afraid of you. Blinding light surged around her. And then, silence. What remained was an echo of truth, reverberating just as the shadows inched closer again. Mom? Where are you? Ethan called. His voice wavering. A chilling uncertainty settled. The shadows danced at the edges of her vision, and something shifted in the air, heavy with anticipation. This wasn't over yet. What awaited them on the other side of the ring's power? Would love truly conquer all, or would they both be lost to the abyss? As the darkness crept, so did the fear. Would they find each other again, or had she just stepped into a deeper nightmare? The silence hung heavy in the air, a thick fog pressing into Sarah's senses. She strained to listen, but the echo of Ethan's voice faded into the oppressive dark, leaving her alone with the shadows that writhed expectantly around her. With no idea where she stood or even what had happened to the light, fear clawed at her throat, tightening like a vice. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling. Just as the name left her lips, a chill ran down her spine. The darkness felt alive, as if it were waiting, watching. The pulsating darkness shifted, and she could almost feel the presence of the creature lurking just beyond her sight. Panic surged through her. I have to find him. Without thinking, she pushed through the mist, every inch forward fraught with anxiety. Suddenly, a flash of warmth flickered against her palm, the ring. Its glow was faint, yet it provided a sliver of hope as she turned the metal against the shadows. Please, she trembled. Help me find him. The shadows recoiled, their forms twisting in discomfort as the ring pulsed. But the relief was short-lived as a deafening roar pierced the silence. The creature emerged, more substantial now, its grotesque features clearer than before. A mass of horror that sent shivers through her core. It towered above her, its smoky body glimmering with malice as it snarled. Foolish girl. Each flicker of light opens another door. You've chosen a path to despair. Her heart raced, racing against the encroaching darkness. Let him go, Sarah cried, summoning the strength she hardly felt. You win. You can't take him from me. Your love is weak. It screeched, its voice echoing like thunder through the void. Your heart is full of doubt. I can taste it, and you'll join him soon enough. In that moment, tendrils shot toward her, grasping for her throat. The grip tightened, and Sarah gasped, fighting with everything she had. She could feel the shadows crawling beneath her skin, cold and suffocating. No, I won't let you. She clutched the ring tighter, closing her eyes. Memories flooded her mind once more, the warmth of Ethan's laughter. The way he would wrap his arms around her, safe and sound. I believe in us, she howled, reaching deep inside herself for the strength that felt all but gone. With every syllable, the ring flared to life again. Light burst from it like a beacon, forcing the darkness back, but not entirely. The creature's form flickered, unstable. For a moment, Sarah thought she could see Ethan's face in the shadows, lost but longing. A wave of fear washed over her. Ethan, she shouted, breaking through the chaos. I'm coming. But as she stepped forward, the ground beneath her transformed, a swirling abyss of despair threatening to engulf her. She staggered, fighting to stay upright, the shadows surging around her like a tidal wave. No matter how hard she gripped the ring, the dark was pulling her toward an inevitable void. A horrible laugh echoed in the chasm, and she could taste the bitterness of defeat. You can't escape me, Sarah. I feed on despair. You will drown in your failure. But then, through the cacophony of dread, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Ethan needs me, she screamed, feeling the raw power of motherhood rise within, burning hotter than any fear. The light from the ring flared, illuminating the obstacles before her away through the blackness. As she summoned her will, each leap toward the pinprick of light brought her closer to Ethan. But would the shadows relent? Would they allow her to reach him? Or would this desperate surge of light only stir the creature into a more violent rage? The abyss threatened, but she could not turn back now. The question loomed in her mind. How strong was her love, and would it be enough to conquer the gathering storm? As darkness loomed larger, Sarah pressed on, heart pounding, praying her bravery would be enough to pierce through the veil of despair. Where would this path lead, a heartwarming reunion or the depths of horror? The light surged, desperate and fleeting, leading Sarah deeper into the shadows that writhed, whispering her name in twisted echoes. Every step felt like a battle against invisible chains dragging her backward into the abyss. She could hear the creature's low growl, a sound that made her bones ache with dread. You'll never reach him, it taunted, its voice a caustic hiss. Shut up, she screamed, squeezing the ring tighter. Its glow pulsed, responding to her determination, and for a moment, she felt a connection to Ethan. She imagined his strong hands, the warmth of his smile pushing against the cold that surrounded her. But the shadows twisted again, and Sarah faltered. They seemed to swirl like a storm, threatening to close in and snuff out her light. No, I can't give up, she shouted, forcing her legs to move, sprinting towards the far-off flicker that held the promise of rescue. The air thickened, pressing against her an oily darkness that sucked the breath from her lungs. Sarah stumbled, heat rushing through her veins. The ring flared bright, and for a split second, she saw a figure, his features indistinct but undeniably familiar. Ethan, she cried out, reaching forward, the pulse of her heart matching the glowing ring. But just as quickly, the shadows seized the moment of hope. Tendrils lashed out, wrapping around her waist, yanking her back. The coldness seeped into her skin, and fear coiled like a snake around her throat. "Ethan, help me," she gasped, panic clawing up into her chest. Laughter rolled through the air, the creature's voice like shards of glass grating against her sanity. "He cannot hear you. You are alone, girl. You've always been alone. Your love means nothing here." Desperation set in, and she thought of her son, the closeness they once shared. "I will never stop fighting for us." Her voice rang out stronger than ever, igniting a flicker of rebellion against the horror that bound her. The shadows writhed, but for every inch they pushed forward, her light fought back, illuminating streaks of ethereal blue dancing in the darkness. With renewed strength, she pulled forward, each step weakening the creature's grasp. The abyss tugged at her heels, but she felt a surge of warmth, an invisible thread connecting her to Ethan. He was out there, somewhere within this nightmare. Suddenly, the ground thudded beneath her, trembling violently. A crevice opened wide, black as pitch. She could hear the gurgling whispers of despair from deep below, promises of eternal silence and surrender. "No, no," she whispered, dread coursing through her. Then, a voice pierced through the chaos, faint yet definitive. "Sarah, it's not what it seems." The words hung like a lifeline, a familiar melody, one she would recognize anywhere. Her heart thudded painfully, and she grasped tighter onto the ring. "Ethan," Sarah shouted, the name like a battle cry. "I'm coming. Stop. You don't know what you're doing." The creature bellowed, panic leaking into its tone. But it was too late. Each pulse of light from the ring drove the shadows back momentarily, revealing a path littered with fragmented memories. She could see flashes, small glimpses of her life with Ethan, moments of laughter, and warmth that had been swallowed by the dark. With courage surging inside her, Sarah leaped toward the light, her heart full of love, fear, and a fierce determination. Would she make it to him before the darkness consumed her, before she lost everything? As she flew through the swirling shadows, the ground beneath her began to crack, and suddenly, the faces of those she had lost flew by, haunting specters glaring with hungry eyes. The void yawned wide, ready to embrace her forever. "Sarah." The voice was frantic now. It brought her to a halt. Was he close by? Was Ethan trapped in the shadows too? Suddenly, a monstrous roar erupted, sending vibrations up her spine, shaking her to her core. "You will perish," it howled, the shadows slamming together to form a wall, blocking her escape. But then, a pulse resonated through the air, mingling with the thrumming of her heart. "Trust me," the voice urged again, clearer now. Sarah steadied herself, gathering every ounce of faith she had left. With one last defiant scream, she lunged toward the heart of the darkness, where she felt Ethan's presence stronger than ever. But the shadows were relentless. They lunged, wrapping around her legs, pulling her down. Would she be able to break free from their grasp, to find him and escape this nightmare? The echoes of despair swirled closer, and as the light flickered, another scream pierced the air. The powerful light erupted from the ring, pushing back the tendrils of darkness that clawed at Sarah. A chorus of anguished wails filled the air, drowning her in a symphony of terror. For a brief moment, the suffocating shadows recoiled, revealing flickers of memories of laughter, of hands held tightly in the sun, of her children's innocent faces before the world turned dark. "Ethan," she bellowed again, her voice breaking as she felt the connection between them grow stronger. "I'm coming for you." The shadows thrashed in fury, shrieking at her defiance. The ground trembled, rupturing under the weight of her emotions, threatening to swallow her whole. With every ounce of intention coursing through her veins, Sarah pushed forward, the ring blazing brighter with each step. The echoes of doubt whispered in her ear, but all she felt was love, pure and unwavering. It burned bright enough to pierce through the suffocating blackness. "Sarah, you have to fight." Ethan's voice echoed through the chaos, wrapping around her heart like a soothing balm. She could see him, a faint silhouette behind the swirling mists, desperately reaching out. "Don't let it take you. I want tea," she cried, determination surging as the darkness closed in again. "We will face this together." She leaped toward the flicker of familiarity, the warmth of his spirit guiding her through the nightmarish grasp. The shadows coiled tighter, angry whispers raging against her resolve. You cannot win. You belong to the darkness. No, Sarah shouted, the word erupting from her soul. The ring pulsed in response, a beacon of defiance. As she advanced, light erupted from her heart, shielding her from the grips of despair threatening to pull her apart. The creature screeched, thrashing as its form began to waver. The shadows twisted and contorted, revealing new depths to their terror as she fought through. Despair mingled with hope, creating a whirlwind of emotion and power. Every twinge of her heart reverberated with the desire to hold Ethan in her arms again, to remind him he was never alone. Sarah, he cried, and Sarah met his gaze. His eyes sparkled with fear and determination, his faith in her illuminating the suffocating darkness. In a final push against the chaos, she grasped the ring tightly, the warmth spreading through her arm. Together, she shouted, bonding their spirits in one fierce call of love. The darkness recoiled, whining against their unity, but Sarah didn't falter. She forged ahead, through the tar-like shadows, feeling each step shatter the chains binding them. I believe in you. Believe in us, Ethan replied. Their voices melded, two forces powerful enough to shake the foundations of fear. The ring glowed brilliantly, as if it could sense what was at stake. Shadows hissed, swirling madly like angry bees defending their hive. But love conquers all. With one last burst of strength, she stepped forward into the light that enveloped them like a protective cocoon. Then, the darkness erupted. With a blinding flash, the shadows unraveled, disintegrating into wisps of darkness. The air filled with the sound of the creature's anguished wail, echoing as it faded into memory. As the night shattered into dawn, Sarah felt Ethan's strong arms wrap around her, pulling her close, the world around them blossoming into a reality filled with color and warmth. Mom, Ethan whispered, tears sparkling in his eyes as he clung tightly. You came for me. I knew you would. I'd never stop fighting for you, she said, her heart swelling with relief and love as she held him. And as the sun rose, bathing their home in golden light, shadows faded like bad dreams chased away by morning. The curse of Samu was lifted. It would cease to haunt the corners of their lives. Walking hand in hand with her son through their front door, Sarah felt the weight lift. The nightmares that once suffocated her lifted, revealing a world where love triumphed over darkness. Let us start fresh, Sarah said, looking down at Ethan with a smile that reflected new beginnings. Together, as they stepped outside, warmth of a new day, wrapped around them gently, and laughter, rich and vibrant, spilled from their lips, shattering the remnants of terror. There would be more battles to face, but this time, they would face them together, sunlight guiding their way. The camera zoomed out, drifting high above their home, where two figures, a mother and her son, stood together, ready to embrace whatever life would bring next. You need to subscribe now to catch the next heart-pounding adventure. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your reactions and theories. What did you think of this conclusion? Share it with your friends who need to see how it ends. Don't wait even one more second. Show your support and be part of this journey.